Okay, so we'll get started here. Again, good morning, directors, guests, and staff. My name is Jake Martins. I'm the General Manager of Corporate Services and the Deputy Corporate Legislative Officer. And as this is the inaugural meeting of the Comox Strathcona Regional Hospital District, our first order of business is the election of the Chair and Vice Chair for 2023. I'll just start this meeting by first recognizing that we are conducting this on the traditional unceded territory of the Comox First Nation. In regards to the election process, we do follow the process laid out in our procedure bylaw, and so I can briefly provide a bit of an introduction or summary of that. Any director may put forward another director's name. It will start with that nomination process, and again, any director can put forward another's name. I will call for nominations 3 times for the position of chair, and then following that, the position of vice chair. I will then ask each nominee that could be put forward in reverse order from which they're nominated if they will accept that nomination. If more than one director is nominated, each candidate will have 3 minutes to make a campaign presentation. The only difference here with the vice chair is that they have 2 minutes for that campaign presentation. And so should an election be required and following those speeches, an election will be conducted by secret ballot. We have a somewhat added challenge today in which we have both directors attending in person and virtually. However, we will use paper ballots for those in attendance here in the room. And then we will use an anonymous Zoom poll that will be prompted for those of you online. Again, should an election be required, that will be how this is conducted. If there are more than 2 candidates and no candidate receives a clear majority of votes on the first ballot, the candidate with the lowest number of votes will be removed from the ballot and the voting will be conducted again. This process will be used until there is 1 candidate who receives a clear majority of ballots cast. And if there are 2 tie votes, the board will have to pass a resolution to either determine the election by drawing of lots or start the election process over again. So with that, are there any questions regarding the election process before we begin from those in the room and those online? Seeing none, I will first call a first time then for the nomination of chair for the Comox Strathcona Regional Hospital District. And if you could just raise your hand or, I see Director Colborne has got her hand. Go ahead.
I would nominate Director Hillian.
Thank you. And I will call a second time for any nominations for the position of chair. And a third and final time for any nominations for the position as chair. So seeing no other further nominations, Director Hillian, do you allow your name to stand?
Yes, I do. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Then with that, I'm pleased to advise that you have been acclaimed as the chair of the Comox Strathcona Hospital District for 2023. Before turning the meeting up to yourself, we'll conduct the election for the vice chair. Same process as the last. I will start by calling for nominations for the position of vice chair. Director Hardy.
I'll suggest that Edwin Grieve maybe run for vice.
Thank you. And I will call a second time for nominations for the result. Director Hillian.
I'd like to nominate Robin Mawhinney.
Thank you. And I will call a third and final time for any nominations. And Director Davis.
I'd like to nominate Director Cole Hamilton.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other nominations in the room or online, Director Cole Hamilton, do you allow your name to stand?
That's very, I appreciate the nomination, but no, I decline. Thanks.
Thank you. And Director Mawhinney, do you allow your name to stand?
Thank you very much for the nomination, but I would prefer not to take on that role at this moment.
Thank you for that. And Director Grieve, do you allow your name to stand?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. So as the only nominee for the position of Vice Chair, I am pleased to announce you've been acclaimed to that position. So as there was no ballots cast, there's no motion required to destroy any of the ballots. I thank you all for your participation. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Chair Hillian to conduct this meeting.
Ready to roll?
Yes.
All right, thanks very much, everyone. I'm going to recognize that there wasn't a long lineup for this position, but nonetheless, I'm grateful for your confidence and will do my very best to fulfill the duties of this position. I look forward to working with all of you in this role. I also look forward to working with our staff, with Island Health, and with people from the community who may have issues that they bring to our hospital board. I did send a message out, I believe, to most directors last week, just introducing myself and advising that I was interested in taking this on. And in that message, I acknowledged that my goals would be to, first of all, hopefully run effective meetings. I appreciate everybody's efforts in being here, and I want to make sure we make good use of everyone's time. I also want to acknowledge the strategic projects that the hospital board has already determined and is working actively on. That includes the establishment of a long-term care facility in Campbell River and a health services hub in the Comox Valley, along with our ongoing support to our rural health clinics. So with whatever else comes before us in the term to come, I hope that we can focus on those significant projects that will benefit our communities. And with that, I'll thank Jake for doing the territorial acknowledgement, and we'll move on with adoption of the minutes of the December 1st meeting.
I move.
Moved by Grant, seconded by Davis. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, is there anyone opposed? Those minutes are carried, and we shall move on to our reports. And we have the Island Health Liaison meeting update. A motion for receipt, please. Moved by Grant, seconded by Cole Hamilton, and over to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, directors. This is a fairly brief report, and it's a regular report that we would present to the Comox Strathcona Regional Hospital District, advising of the work that we undertake in a liaison fashion with Island Health. In April of 2021, the board approved a resolution to have the chair and vice chair work with Island Health Executive on various topics, primarily around advocating for services and activities, cooperating with Island Health, informing both parties about different activities, and just that engagement that's important outside of board meetings. Today's report advises on the December 16th meeting that was held. That was with former Vice Chair Hillian, now Chair Hillian, and our CAO and executive from Island Health. Dave Boychuk is in the room today and is available to answer any questions that might come up from the board. Dave's title is the Executive Director, Capital Planning, Financial Projects, and P3s with Island Health. And the report just touches on a few different topics that were discussed. It was the long-term care facility in Campbell River that Chair Hillian has mentioned, the concept for the community services hub in Comox Valley, as well as a couple of other points of discussion, namely the capital projects list that is identified and built through Island Health's process and then submitted to the Comox Strathcona Regional Hospital District, for which we provide 40% capital funding on a regular basis. I believe that was a question that came up at the last board meeting. So we're happy to answer any questions that might come up from the board, but this is a regular report that you'll see following those liaison meetings. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And first off, Director Joliker.
Hi, and thank you, Chair, and congratulations. From the report, it identifies in the last paragraph the capital investment planning process that Island Health engages, stating that the current fiscal year process started in May of 2022 with board approval in January. I'm wondering if the Island Health representative can just highlight if there are any projects that are being presented to the board or that have been presented to the board, Island Health Board that is, that we may not be aware of as of yet.
Dave, is that something that you'd have information about? It's the that list of projects that we will receive from Island Health on your capital investment process. And if you're able to come to the mic, and those online will be able to hear and see you. If you just press the button there on the.
Morning, board, and thank you for your time in having me here today. I'm happy to address this question. I think there's a couple of important things. We differentiate very large capital projects like hospitals or the LTC build, the long-term care build in Campbell River. Right, as it exists in a separate process from our routine capital. That routine capital is essentially sustainment, right? That's
Dave, I'm just going to check if everyone online can hear you. Can people hear okay?
Yes.
Great, thanks. Carry on.
Thank you. So in that, our routine capital planning process goes every year, and as James has rightly pointed out, starts in May and ends in January when we come back to all of you looking for those cost sharing projects. So the short answer to your question, Director, is no, there are no projects that the board wouldn't be aware of right now. There is some routine investment of sustainment for equipment that we'll touch here, but isn't cost shared in the way that you're considering.
Thanks. Any follow-up?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Dave. You might want to stay there just in case. Any further questions or comments from directors? Doesn't sound like it. Looks like you've got an easy route this morning, Dave. Thanks very much. So we'll call the question on receipt. Is there anyone opposed? That is carried, and we shall move forward to the hospital board management report from January 23rd or January 2023. A motion for receipt, please. Moved by Grant, seconded by Cole Hamilton. Over to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This management report, for those directors who may be not familiar with the format and the process, this report is a compilation of CSRHD board resolutions that are approved at meetings previously, and where those actions remain either undone or continue to be active. We will report those on this management report on a regular basis. As those actions are completed, we'll update the action column, and the items will fall off the management report. So the only item on the management report currently is the motion from September 2022, and it relates to the board's decision to add additional rural and remote healthcare clinics and centers as named facilities to receive some nominal grant funding from the CSRHD board. Historically, there's been 6 facilities that the CSRHD board has contributed towards. The previous board asked that we consider taking a look at expanding that list of facilities. And so there's an additional, I believe, 9 that have been submitted to Island Health, and then Island Health has to work with the Ministry of Health to have those facilities named. And at that point, the CSRHD board would be able to provide funding to the facilities. So currently, those facilities are with Island Health and the ministry to seek them being named. I don't see any barriers in that happening. I think it just takes a little bit of time. So we'll report back when those facilities are in fact named by the minister, and then the funds can be provided.
Thanks for that, James. Are there any questions or comments from directors? Seeing none, we shall vote on receipt. Is there anyone opposed? That is carried. That brings us to the end of our meeting, and blessedly short, but just before we conclude, I want to acknowledge Director Grieve being elected as Vice Chair. I want to thank him for serving. Director Grieve and I'm sure we'll be able to work together. My nomination was intended to give an opportunity for someone from the north part of of our hospital district to be engaged. And in that regard, I would particularly encourage any directors from either Comox Valley or Strathcona to get in touch with Director Grieve, myself, or staff if you have any issues of concern in relation to this board. And I look forward to us having that opportunity to develop a collegial working relationship together. And with that, I'll take a motion for termination. Moved by Cole Hamilton, seconded by Davis. And I'm sure nobody will be opposed. So that is carried. Thanks very much, everyone.